so many people joining in.
So why don't we get started? Um, as you can see, of course, I'm the publisher of the Journeyman newsletter, which is basically focused on what I call the intersection of American culture, politics, and anti-black racism, which gives me a lot of latitude to pretty much write about whatever tickles my fancy, so to speak. But generally speaking, I'm gonna most of what I write is informed by my background, which is having spent many years in finance, the last part of it on Wall Street, running a couple of boutique trading operations, which is Wall Street code for small. And so after that, for those of you that don't know me, I moved to North Carolina a little over a decade ago after leaving Wall Street, and that's where I started writing as a subject matter expert, mostly on fintech, financial technology, the capital markets, that sort of thing. When 2020 rolled around, like a lot of people, I started to reevaluate. COVID kind of put the kibosh on that particular business, but I guess it opened the door for me to start writing more along the lines of independent journalism. And that's where Ahmad and I um, connected back in the rant days. And, I think he kind of gave me my first opportunity to, try my hand. I think I want to say maybe the first thing that I did with you was the something on the airline industry, I think. But
Yeah.
at any rate, I want to just introduce this gentleman. I'll let you tell your story, but I'm really happy that we were able to reconnect, and I'm looking forward to a good conversation.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so happy you asked me to come and do this. This is my first live ever, so this is my inaugural live to everyone here. Yeah, we see Dee. She remembers Rant Media here. That was back when it was a startup I was running at the time. Now it still operates a little bit, but now I'm mainly doing my own independent journalism. But yeah, so I mean, my story was I worked in tech first before all of this, and I was doing software work, and I was really just working through that. And then here comes Donald running for office in 2015, and I kind of started blogging and tweeting, and that was how I got into journalism initially. And then, for those who remember Rant, I documented every single day of Trump's presidency in my column, and hence, like I said earlier, the hair loss. But basically, was documenting every day, right? And there was this avalanche of news developments that were happening, and essentially, you know, um, just kept working through that, fighting authoritarianism. My style of journalism is pro-democracy. That's how I see it. I don't think it's biased to oppose disinformation and authoritarianism. I think it's upholding objective reality. So that's where I stand. And we're back again here. We have another Trump term, and I'm locked in. I may not be documenting every single day of the presidency like last time because I have a fiance now and a life, and I can't. I don't want to stress myself out too much. But what we'll be talking about today is like now it's more about synthesizing the developments, taking a step back, analyzing what's important, what is meant to distract us, and really just taking a more measured, clear-eyed approach to this time around. So that's me, and like Marlon said, feel free to subscribe to my newsletter. It's just my name, and obviously, if you're a subscriber of mine, hit that subscribe for the journeyman. He's Marlon's a great guy.
Thank you. um, Before we came on, one of the things we were talking about, and you kind of touched on it. um, I have been thinking about how this Trump 2.0 is so much different in a lot of different ways, um, for both the way he's operating and the way I think we should operate, because it's very easy, and I think this is a strategy. I don't think it's accidental, where you call it flood the zone, the fire hose, whatever you want to describe it as. And I think legacy media has a difficult time dealing with it, because and what I mean by the fire hose is, okay, over here you got DOGE trying to shut down the Department of Education, and over here Trump is talking about the Gulf of America.
Yeah.
And it's like, which which story do we chase, and he's you have to give it to him. He's really a master at this, at that approach of being able to use distraction to make journalists rather, take their eye off the ball. And
Yeah.
I'd be interested to hear just how you think about that, if you agree, and how you would approach it.
No, I definitely agree. I think that's what a lot of these tactics have been, right? There are some executive orders that are empty. There are some things that are smoke screens, and then there are others that we need to focus on. And that's one of their tactics. They want to disorient us. And with legacy media, with the incentives that they have to maximize clicks, maximize ratings, and not really take a full step back, they will just sometimes cover everything. There are, of course, great mainstream journalists and mainstream outlets and that do really good work. But I think one of the best ways to cover this admin this time is to take that step back, to analyze what's the intent behind these actions. So like with the tariffs, right? With these other things that he's doing, with the dismantling of agencies, what is real and what is not? What is he actually attempting to do? What's the reason he's telling this lie? I think we know enough about the guy that he's really predictable, that I think as a journalist, even, it's not biased to say why he's telling this lie, what tactic it fits within, analyzing it so that people can understand what's happening. So that's kind of how I like try to
Hmm.
approach it.
And I yeah, I'm not trying to paint legacy media with a broad brush, but you
Oh,
hit
of
it on the
course.
head. These are corporate entities, and yeah, I know, because I just from my former life, they are driven not by trying to make you happy. Well, unless you're a shareholder, right? Or unless you're an investor, as it were. So their motivations are completely different, and they may not necessarily align with what's good for us. Okay, so that is why you'll see now the New York Times. I'll it's their editorial page I don't even read anymore. But I mean, people ask me sometimes, well, why do you subscribe to the New York Times? Why do you subscribe to the Washington Post? Um, you have to be able to verify information somewhere,
Yeah.
and they're kind of all we have. They're certainly like a family member you don't agree with all the time, but he's still your family, right?
Yeah.
And so I try to be diligent in terms of what I take from those particular publications. Now, at the same time, Breitbart can't do anything for me. you
Exactly. Yeah,
know,
I know.
I kind of, I mean, because they're so blatant with where they're coming from. I'm not their target market.
Yeah.
The Epoch Times, I'm not their target market.
Yeah.
Um, I do some guest lecturing from time to time at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Wilmington's about 20 or 30 miles away from where I live,
Mhm.
and it's really interesting on this whole conversation about the broader conversation is really about information, misinformation, and
Yeah.
disinformation, right? So I don't know, maybe it was 3 months ago I did a talk um, to some international B school students, right? And it was so interesting. My thesis, which it's not rocket science, is and this is one of the reasons that I don't paywall my newsletter, because I would like to think that I am a truth teller, and you can sort of rely on, if I say X happened, I'm going to have the receipts to back it up, right? But what good is that if I'm paywalling it and nobody ever can read it unless they pay me? Because if I'm on the other side of that, I'm like, well, I don't even know who is this guy? Why am I
Yeah.
going to pay him? I would much rather take the approach of saying what I say, and you the reader decide if it has value, and hopefully that'll make you think, that'll be something you're willing to pay for.
Yeah.
All that to say, so I gave this talk and I described, the legacy media on the reliable news side of the fence, and then let's
Mhm.
say Breitbart, News Nation, you pick on the other side. And the only pushback, because what I tend to do is leave the last 10 or 15 minutes for questions, Q&A. The only pushback that I got, and I did 2 1-hour, back-to-back classes, which, by the way, is, if you don't talk for a living, is hard.
Yeah.
The only pushback I got, and it's really interesting. I think it was in November. The
Mhm.
only pushback I got was when I said Elon Musk, in my opinion, is the biggest purveyor of disinformation on the planet. And yeah,
Really?
I mean, and it came from a different place. It was like a young lady was like, well, "That's just free speech," and I said,
Oh,
"Ma'am,"
yeah. That's where you see
and
some of the.
I would be so interested. In fact, I'm going to do another series at that same, for the same venue. Probably it'll be different students, but I'm going to be very interested to hear what the comment is now, knowing
Mhm.
what we know, which really kind of opens the door for us to talk about Doge. So
No,
I'll flip it to
exactly.
you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's interesting because I give guest lectures too about disinformation for like K through 12 students, college students as well.
Hmm.
And it's interesting to see what their thoughts are and what the dynamics are. But I just want to echo all your thoughts about paywalling and stuff. I don't either. I have a couple exclusive things I might try sometimes just to see.
Hmm.
But yeah, people pay for community, I think, and then if they want to support your work. But you're right. I think really, Elon Musk is the biggest purveyor of disinformation, and now what he's doing here, he is taking Doge. Since we're going to segue right into this thing, this man is taking the Twitter model and applying it to the federal government. He went in there, dismantled,
Hmm.
dismantled the organization, purged it of people who disagreed with him, purged it of liberals, and then twisted it into a tool for his own use and for the far right with the algorithms boosting the right wing ecosystem. And then now he's in the federal government, which, and I'd like to note, as always, I've been warning about Project 2025 since 2023. And basically, what Musk is doing, this is the core of Project 2025. We have all these elements, but the core is to break the federal bureaucracy and not just dismantle it for the sake of dismantling it, but to break it down and then twist it into a tool of the far right. So it's the same thing that he did in Twitter, he's now doing here in the federal government on Trump's behalf. And the courts are stopping it in some places, but other places, he's moving a little too fast.
Well, they
Um,
know that necessarily the court system is slow. It's
exactly.
it's meant to be that way, so they don't just railroad folks. But what they're doing is almost like, if like jujitsu. They're
Yeah,
using the nature of the court against it, right?
exactly.
Um, and the other thing I think that's very interesting, and this is why I always say this guy's not really a conservative. He's not trying to make government smaller. What he's trying to do, as you said, he's trying to break it,
Hmm.
and get all these people out that are, just the regular, bureaucrats, for lack of a better word, but just lying folks. They're not really political.
Hmm.
That's not what he wants. He wants political. He just
Yep,
wants to make sure they're on his side. You see what?
exactly.
I'll give you a perfect example. What happened today with Eric Adams?
Hmm.
That's crazy. I mean, you've had, what, the head of Main Justice in New York has resigned. They and let me back up for those who don't know. The DOJ, I guess it was earlier this week or maybe the end of last week, announced that they were withdrawing their indictment of Eric Adams.
Hmm.
And this guy, just based on what we saw late last year, they had him dead to rights, man. They had,
Yeah.
I mean, recordings, and he's a crook, okay. Um, but what has come out today, and I don't know if you heard this, but apparently, I'm trying to remember her name. Sassoon, I think, is her
Yeah.
last name. But she basically released a letter, or
Hmm.
some of the cable news folks have gotten a hold of it, and she's basically saying that not only did they have this guy, they were about to announce a superseding indictment
Yep.
with more charges
Hmm.
for, I want to say, like, obstruction and destroying evidence or something. And they met with his attorney, this Emil Bove guy, with which had been the acting attorney general and now I don't know exactly what his role is, um, but they were just talking quid pro quo, just
Exactly.
right, just
Yeah.
right there in front of everybody, And you
Yeah.
look at what they're doing; they're holding that sword over his head, like if you don't really, if you don't stay in line, we can just re-indict
Exactly. So it's like I live in New York, right? So it's not too chill,
you.
not too chill over here, where we're kind of worried about what this is going to mean when you have a mayor who is literally at the whim of someone like Trump. Trump loves having. This is why he wanted Matt
Oh
Gates.
yeah,
But this is why he wanted Matt Gates, for example, because he loves having people that he has leverage over. So
yep.
now you have the New York City mayor who is basically indebted to this guy and who is now under threat of potential super more indictments, right?
And of course, what happened today? All of a sudden, he's letting
Yep.
the immigration folks in Rikers.
And
He's
exactly.
just, he's opening the door. Forget Sanctuary City. He's on board. Now, I heard, and I'm not sure what um, the procedure is for this, but I heard one of the attorneys on. I was listening to one of the channels, and he said that Kathy Hochul actually has the authority to remove him.
Hmm.
I don't know how that works, but New York has a really different setup in terms of the political apparatus. So this isn't over, and this has to go before a judge anyway. And I would imagine with a letter out there like
Yeah.
she wrote, she knew that a judge is going to look at that and say, "Okay, what's up? What's going on here?" And there's
Yeah.
at least going to be a hearing to show cause. Now, that's about as far as my legalese can go, but
Yeah. Yeah.
we'll take a look and see. I want to just circle back more to Doge though, because the, and you're a tech guy, or you were.
Yeah.
The thing that gets me is I set up and I listen to Elon Musk talking about all this fraud that they found, and they aren't showing any evidence. And I'm like, and they keep talking about like they're doing this audit, and I'm like, since when do you not have accountants? There
Yeah.
ain't an accountant anywhere. All you got is coders, man. What are you talking about? What kind of audit is that, right?
Yeah, it's they're not doing an official audit. They're going through and they're using putting AI on the systems now, and they're trying to go through and just like find, you know, right now I saw there. So basically, NBC News obtained this like line item thing that's the press secretary released of some of the things that they found, and it's just them cutting DEI and like inclusivity funds, and it's like a couple million here or a 50,000 there. Meanwhile, Musk is locking in new contracts. Meanwhile, he billions already in contracts and going to SpaceX and his other companies, and it's really just it's so clear what's happening. Like to an average American, I really think they're getting ahead of their skis here, and they're overreaching in a real way because Americans don't like oligarchy, and we're starting to see the polling move against Musk, and I think in a compelling way. And
Mm-hmm.
we're going to see what happens, but I like they're not identifying real waste, and instead
Well, and
the
it's chicken feed and the scheme. I mean,
yeah
you think about of all the places they could go. I mean, USAID is a rounding error in our and look, I'm not even going to say that there's no bloated inefficiency, but you're not going to find it using coders.
exactly no
you
you're not
know that's telling me that what they're doing is. I even read a story, which by the way, we talk about legacy media. I'll tell you who in my opinion is doing some really good work of all places. Wired magazine,
oh yeah
which
yeah
by the way, folks, you can get a subscription to Wired. I don't get a commission on this. I'm just saying $5 for a year. I hit that deal all day long. I
yeah
mean, because they're really on top of it. They're breaking news. And
hmm
as I mean, $5 I think
yeah.
anybody can handle to get at some good information.
and it's
Um,
and it's because and Wired specifically, just to add on that, the reason why Wired is having all of this access is because they covered Silicon Valley. They're a
they know the
tech
game.
publication, and now Silicon Valley, because it's had this weird radical right wing tilt, has moved into the White House. So all of these billionaires' aides, David Sachs is there. You
Hmm.
have these different aides that are there that were the sources for Wired. So now Wired is now a political publication almost. They have the sourcing there for that, and it's really this tech, like what's happened in Silicon Valley, has just been remarkable. Uh, and it's really just it shows that they never really had any principles to begin with. They all pretended to be liberal when it served them, and now they
Hmm.
think it serves them to be far right. And this is what we're the result of that is look at Zuck and twisting of these platforms. So yeah, it's just so many different factions moving over here, and I really just think I think it's going to backfire. That's my general take, but we'll
Well,
see.
I can tell you this, and you're already starting to see it with USAID. I mean, look, there's a story that's out there. I'll try to, by the way, what I do is by default, and I say I leave everything open. By default, the recording of this goes out to paid subscribers first, but I generally will make it, like a day later, it goes out to all the, subscribers. And, I'm sure you can do the same thing on your end. But what I try to do is I've written a little bit about Elon Musk like a year ago when he was breaking Twitter in half. But
Mhm.
it's the same kinds of things that he's doing. And so I'll post links to those kind of things or any interest in I'll post a link to that $5 wire
Yeah.
deal, just for folks to have access to some background. But late last year, you talk about all these people around him, which not for nothing, all these South Africans, hmm, and we'll just leave that right there. David Sachs, South African, of course, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel. I don't think he was born in
He
South
has
Africa. I
connections
think
there.
he
He's lived
spent
there.
time there as a kid or something. But basically, you got the pro apartheid ring all around this guy.
Steve, I hate to quote Steve Bannon here, but Steve Bannon, he said something like, "Why are all these racist South Africans
You know,
coming here?" That's
I
what Steve
know.
Bannon
I
said. That's not
saw it. I was
that's not
like,
my quote. I'm
Steve.
not I'm not calling him that. That was Steve.
No, no, when the guy
Yeah,
he was right, and he's like, look, I mean, when you out racist Steve Bannon, you you're really doing something.
yeah, yeah.
So, but the thing that I was pointing out was you also, and this is, I don't know if anybody's really reporting on this. I just happen to know about this sort of poker playing mentality that these guys have. Not so much Musk, but Peter Thiel.
Mhm.
Well, for example, Nate Silver,
Yeah,
the guy at 538. Now he is an advisor to this um, Poly Market.
yeah. Polymarket. Yep.
Okay, you know who owns Poly Market?
Peter Thiel, right?
Uh-huh. And
Yeah,
what got my attention was back right before the election when and this is where you really can criticize legacy media. So a lot of people don't know this, but Nate Silver, before he started 538, he was a professional poker player.
exactly.
Okay. And Peter Thiel's connected to poker. So is Jeff Yass, the guy who owns Susquehanna, which is one of the biggest investment firms in the world,
Mm.
which also owns ByteDance. Like
Mm.
they don't own it outright; they
But
own
they have a
about
stake in it.
their
Yeah.
their stake in it is about $30 billion worth.
Mm. Yeah.
And back here about a year ago, about this time last year, Dave or Jeff Yass went from never Trumper, had supported DeSantis. All of a sudden, he's inviting Trump to a Club for Growth donor event. And a week later, Trump, who started the whole thing with TikTok in the
Backed
first
off the
place,
ban. Yeah.
all of a sudden, he's loving TikTok.
Yeah. And
And now look what he's doing with TikTok.
yeah, and I thought the initial way they went about the ban was really dumb, personally.
Oh, it's well, if
I
you're gonna ban, excuse me, Facebook
well,
nearly
yeah,
look what they did in
yeah,
2016. I
yeah.
mean, my God.
So, and what they're doing now, it's just if you want to actually solve the problem. Just a quick aside: you do a broader privacy bill, you do a
Yeah.
larger bill that applies to all tech. But yeah, I think when it comes to TikTok, yeah, I mean, it's just an example right there with Yost how easily it is to influence Trump, and what we see is the attention economy executives are the ones that Trump has been gathering towards him. And I think that's another point to make that's adjacent to this is, you know, we had Zuck, we had Tim Cook, we had Bezos, we had Google, we had Sandra Pichai there, and these are all about. He didn't have GE there. He didn't have Intel. He
No.
had people who are about the information, the intention landscape, and that's what he cares about. And one of the things that people told me recently is like, oh, I thought Trump was going to go straight after the media initially, right when he gets into office, and the FCC is doing a couple weird things, and there's some lawsuits, but Trump hasn't, gone directly full force at them in the way people expect. And that's because when you have the algorithms on your side, that's the thing that matters these days. Why go after individual outlets when you can have people turn the spigot for you? So that's what's happening here. And I think we're going to see more of the results of these content restrictions being rolled back in Meta, what we've seen in TikTok, as
Hmm.
Trump uses this banned hover over TikTok to potentially, institute a new stale. We're going to see more of these algorithms change, and I'm worried that we're going to see a lot more Trump propaganda that's going to be perpetuated on all of these platforms, and they might become more like X than what they currently are.
I think we'd be remiss if we didn't really talk about the platform that we're on. I mean, I'll do it, man. Look, I mean, I will say, um, I came to Substack. I basically was a Twitter refugee,
Mm-hmm.
and what, a year and a half ago, uh, they all try to have it both ways in terms of we don't look at the end of the day. Mark Andreessen is behind this platform, and I mean, not just him personally, but through his private equity. I mean, I understand you gotta know what side your bread is buttered on, right? So about I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, the CEO of Substack put out this note on Substack Notes, right? And it was really complimenting Elon Musk in a way that I just thought was crazy, you know. And so it makes you wonder what caused that, you know. I mean, Elon Musk tried to sync Notes when Notes first came out. I mean, because it's Twitter with more stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah.
and and
But
he really, I mean, even I don't know, even today, I don't think links from Substack even work well on Twitter. You
yeah,
know?
that's why you got to do a unique URL,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
order to get thumbnails displayed. But yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing there in the Substack example is just the culture of tech has just changed. I think just these people, these are their peers, right? These are the people they hang out with. These are
Hmm.
these fellow executives, and the whole anti woke thing, the right wing culture war made its way into Silicon Valley, and I think they are declaring premature victory, in my opinion. I think they're really overreaching here, but I think that's dominating. I think all these people are moving with the assumption that we are now in a right wing dominated culture as opposed to what we were during the Obama era, when
Hmm.
everything was, and that's why people are moving this way. And that just shows you who has integrity and who doesn't, right? Like if the people who, like, for example, Mark Cuban, I think is an example of one of the good billionaires who could have easily went Trump.
Yeah,
He could have
yeah.
went big MAGA mode in 2024, and he didn't. So it's always about watching the people who stay true to their guns,
Hmm.
even when the tide changes.
Sure.
And we're seeing even some former influencers on the Democratic side. There's that one Lindy Lee, for example. There's
Right.
some people who just shamelessly pivot to the other side. So I
Yeah.
would say if you're like watching this and you're like, support those who stay true and consistent over these years and they're true to themselves, and like watch out for these
Because
grifters because
man,
they
I,
are
I
out
have
here.
to say, if it was just for me about money, it'd be so much better for me to be a black conservative,
Oh my
or a
god.
black Republican. It'd be so
It
much
would
more
be
lucrative to just, go full Kanye and just,
it would
you
be
know,
so easy. I don't think I told you about this, but back in the day, TPUSA reached out to me to to try to
okay,
fly me somewhere to like meet to like do a panel or a debate with Charlie Kirk in 2022, and I didn't
okay.
do it. Maybe I should have done it just to like debate him or whatever. But it was really nice. They were like trying to I didn't want to take money from them basically.
Hmm.
They were trying to give me a trip and stuff, and I was like, no. And it's like that's like the pathway in. Like you if one of us, I mean, we're just like one day, like, you know what, Donald has a point. We would be immediately in our DMs
Oh,
out of
no joke.
nowhere. We would
No
hear
joke.
from people who'd be willing to back us and fund us. Like that is how easy, and that's a reason why there those black conservatives pop up just like that. And that you see Candace Owen, who used to be anti-Trump, switch because she knows the money is on the right, so it's harder to be on and within the
Yeah, this
liberal
is
media.
not the path of,
No,
to wealth and riches.
it's not. It's not. And so it's really people who stand by their principles that you got to watch out for those people and back them up.
Yeah, agreed. So one thing we haven't talked about is tariffs.
Yeah.
Now, I'm an ex-finance guy. I understand, I believe I understand the way tariffs work. And my sense, just sort of a broad, you know, uh, thesis, I don't even think I'm stepping out on a limb, but between tariffs and the way they are fooling around with what DOGE is doing, y'all better start canning food. And I mean, because we're talking about economic difficulty here. I mean, you see the numbers that are coming out. They're not even talking about inflation anymore.
Yeah.
They're
And
not even talking about
but it's
it.
rising.
Okay, and it's going up. And I'm going to tell you, even if he stops tomorrow with these tariffs, what has happened is it's on everybody's mind now.
Hmm.
So, and what I mean by that is if I'm running a trading desk, right? I'm thinking in the back of my mind, whatever happens, I need to be hedged for a potential stupid
Yeah.
tariff that this guy throws at somebody, right?
Hmm.
And you're talking about, tariffs. I mean, Mexico. Look at, I mean, why would we want to mess with somebody that we buying so much food from them?
Yeah.
Fruits and
Yeah.
vegetables and avocados and stuff people have to have.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
And and and, and
I don't
energy in
understand what
Canada.
he's doing.
Yeah, and energy in Canada, right? And now he's doing this thing with the reciprocal tariff measure,
Well,
like a
yeah,
preemptive thing to try to justify future tariffs and on the EU and in every country if you'd like to. And it's you're right. I think people need to hunker down because even without him implementing more right now, you're right. It's that effect because if you're a business owner
you
right
have to
now,
be.
you
Look,
have to hedge. You have to think. I was planning on hiring 10 people this year. Maybe I hire five. I was planning on expanding, and that's where you have like almost a psychological recession
well,
because you're
I was talking to, because even though I haven't worked in New York in now over a decade. I have, what I call my boys, guys
yeah,
I
yeah.
talk to 2 or 3 times a week. One's CFO at a company that's probably going to end up public, but that's kind of his thing.
Mm.
And we just sort of talk about this stuff. You know, what's happening now is um, people are writing into their contracts. Here's what I'm going to pay, but if a tariff happens,
Oh
I'm
wow.
passing that extra 10 or 25% on to you. And so even to get a contract done,
Mm.
you got to allow for tariffs now, which is a
I'll
whole new
just
risk that didn't even exist 2 years ago. And so I think what he's up to, though, is, he looks at tariffs not for what they do to the economy. And it does raise money, because what happens, the importer pays the tariff to the government, I guess, right? So the government realizes that income, and he's he's talking about getting rid of the income tax. I'm sorry, man, it's just so
it's
ridiculous,
it's crazy.
funny to me, but I think what he's trying to do is create an offset to what he's doing on, over here in the House with this ginormous
Tax cut. Yeah.
yes, yes. And man, I did one of these, I don't know, a month or so back, where I just walked through the document that came out of the House Budget Committee. And they're talking about, I mean, it's a wish list,
Yeah.
right?
It's
They're not going to be
unbelievable.
able to do all of this stuff, but just the idea that they're actually thinking, huh, what if we take away the mortgage deduction?
It's unbelievable.
What if we make college scholarships taxable?
Yeah,
It's just, guys, what if y'all just don't give billionaires a tax cut? How about
yeah,
that?
and
You
that's also part of what Doge is doing too. It's like they're
know,
ransacking the government to try to
they're
find
looking for money.
cuts, looking for money they're convinced because they think they're smarter than everyone. They're convinced that these bureaucrats must have stockpiles of billions somewhere that can offset some of the trillions that they're planning in cuts here and deficit
Eh,
spending.
Yeah.
And it's really just, I was talking about this last night. I was on 11th hour again last night.
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
that
Let
was
me
that was
toot your
fun.
horn, man.
Yeah, I just got humble brag real quick. But we were talking, and I just like it's just unbelievable what they're doing here. Like they're creating this amalgamation of events where you're going to increase prices with tariffs. You're going to cut taxes for the rich. That's inflationary. You want to push and force the Fed to cut rates. That's
Dude, it's going to
inflation.
push
That's
this country off a
inflationary.
cliff. You
You
cannot do all these things
no,
at the same time. And the market, it's so funny because there are people I talk to. I mean, where I am is, even though I'm in Eastern North Carolina, which is somewhat more, not progressive, but let's say liberal than other parts of the state. Say, for example, the western part that got hit by all these by the hurricanes and stuff.
yeah,
And I would talk to guys, and I'm like, dude, you've got a business. You're telling me you're about to go out of business because your food prices are too high. Do you not understand tariffs? That avocado smoothie you make is going to cost more, right? And I don't think he's going to do that. They just don't
exactly.
believe he's telling them what he's going to do, and they don't believe him.
And
Well,
that
now he's
was
doing it.
yeah, that was the core problem in 2024. Like I was running around with my non-existent hair on fire, like straight up saying Project 2025 is coming. It directly aligns with his agenda. These are all the things he says he's going to do. These are the things that align that he's going 100% going to do. And most, a lot of people, liberals understood it, but there were even some more centrist types that were like, oh well, he's actually not. He doesn't. This is all bluster. He's going to go in there and he might do a couple of these things, but not others. And it turns out that the alleged alarmists were realists the whole time, and that Donald went in and he's not only done using Project 2025 and tariffs and doing all of these things. He's not just using that playbook as a checklist. Homeboy is doing worse things. Like USAID was not even in Project 2025. It wasn't even attacked in the way that they're going
No.
after it now. He went above and beyond it. So this is actually,
I mean,
in some
that's now
cases, worse.
you're getting into stuff where people are going to die behind. Well, people already. I saw
Yeah.
an article. I haven't had a chance to dig into it. I'm trying to remember where I saw it. Something like 300 children have, like, contracted AIDS because some
Oh my God.
program or HIV, I should say, because some program got shut off. We got $500 million worth of food just rotting, on docks all across,
Yeah.
and it's just, I don't even know how and don't get me wrong, I'm not an angel, man, but that kind of stuff, you really got to do some self-assessment.
Yeah, I mean, at that rate, there's no conscience. They
Yeah.
really see these as not real people. Like they are so like Trump and Musk specifically are so unwell personally. Like they just can't
But they just don't seem to have
empathize.
the whatever it is that gives you empathy
Yeah,
for
they
others.
they they don't have it. They have these deep voids within themselves. They need to try to fill with this external stuff. Like Trump, especially, man. Like I was hoping and praying. I mean, I would never, publicly out here warning, but I was hoping, Trump just won. Okay, he's richer than he's ever been. He got his meme coin.
Hmm.
There's no investigations probing him. He used that as an excuse the first time. All those people were coming after him. That's why he was so unhinged and lunatic the whole time. But turns out that's just his base state. He should be
Yeah, this is just him.
he should be riding on 1,000 right now. Homeboy could have came
You would
in.
think.
He could have came in. The biggest flex he could have done was come in and do nothing that his critics said he was going to do. Instead, he has gone maximally radical and in a real way. Again, I keep coming back to this, so we don't fully despair. I'm not among the people that say there's going to be no midterm elections because it's pretty impossible for them to achieve that because they're state run. It's just not going to happen.
Mhm.
We're going to have midterm elections, and they're going to get whooped. I mean, I'm just that I think they're going to get unless something big changes. Like I think they've given them enough material in the last 3 weeks to
Yeah.
run an anti-corruption, pro-people campaign.
I'm going to tell you something, and this may or may not be a popular opinion, but Democrats got to do some house cleaning, and I mean, and I say this as a person with a fully gray beard, so I ain't no ageist. I'm saying some of these people, their time has passed, and they don't seem yet to want to accept that. And whether you like AOC or not, she's very talented at what she
Yeah,
does, and we need people like that that can that can take on some of these different folks without having to have a script to read. And
that's
they've got to be able to just snap back, and I guess um I'll be a little more political than you may be willing to be. I mean, but I'm an opinion journalist. My opinion is um this woman should be leading a committee, or ranking members.
I agree. I
And
agree.
when you bench your best players, that just doesn't make sense. So that tells me there's something else going. Well, they're still living by um, the old method of, you got to wait
Seniority.
your turn, you got to get
Yeah.
some seniority. That's not the game we're playing anymore. I wrote an article a while back, and it's like they're doing Robert's Rules of Order, and over here these guys doing mixed martial arts.
No, no, exactly. And
And
like
they aren't playing the right game.
what the right does that liberals don't do that well is not only promote it but reward ambition,
Hmm.
reward talent,
I
and the
mean, that's
right and
that's
like
how you got a Marjorie Taylor Greene.
yeah. I mean,
As
not that
and
yeah.
look, that's the thing. She's not that talented. I mean, she can raise money.
Yeah, and I don't
You know,
consider and I consider them all terrible. I just want to make clear, like I don't think that they're
no,
good.
but
Like
you have to
I think
respect the
that
game,
they're
though. These
yeah, I think
guys,
that they're good at playing the attentional, the zero
they
sum.
play with what they have.
Yeah, they're
And
shameless.
they have the thing they have that on the other side we do not have is we don't have a propaganda network of places these people can go and just say anything, you know.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
we don't have the Newsmax, the Fox News, and so forth. So,
Yeah.
so I'm sorry, somebody just said Dems are bringing water balloons to a gun
Yeah,
show.
true. Yeah,
And
yeah.
honestly, I'm not even sure they're
Yeah.
armed that well.
No, yeah, they're not. And that's the thing. Like you're right. Earlier you said what people sound like they're reading off a script. The truth does not need to be poll tested. You get out there,
Exactly.
you
Just
speak
get
the
out there and
truth,
talk.
you get out there and talk. And not only that, like you said, this ecosystem that we see on the right, I think people need to expand their horizon of what this ecosystem is. People in the Democratic side specifically need to figure out how to talk to the non-political world because it's the non-political podcast and the non-political content that has gotten a right-wing tilt that tilted the election. Joe Rogan is not. We don't need a Joe Rogan of the left because Joe Rogan was of the left, and he's not a political machine. It's just like your friend smoking weed in high school, telling
Yeah,
stories. That's his show. So, like, what Democrats need to do, and all these comedian
they need to get
podcasts,
us, man.
Theo Von,
They
yeah,
need
they
to
need to
come
get up.
on. They
They
need
need
to
to
come
come on
on
here,
here.
and
I've
also,
actually reached out to some of them with no success, but we're the people they need to be talking to that are not poll tested, created in a lab somewhere, and with a bunch of consultants and PR people around us.
yeah,
And that to me, that seems to be the problem
yeah,
is, why wouldn't they? And, I'm at the risk of sounding shameless. Dude, I spent 30 years in finance, 10 on Wall Street. Why don't you want to talk to me? I mean,
yeah,
it's just dumb to me. But you know, we got the beauty of it is that the one takeaway, in terms of good things about technology, is it's democratized the ability to do what we're doing right now. Used to
exactly.
be, when I was in college, before they asked me to leave, I
Hmm.
I was a journalism major, and this
Oh,
is back in the days before digital anything. and somebody had to die for you to get
Yeah,
to be a
yeah,
cameraman. You know,
exactly.
somebody had to just retire. And now everybody's a potential journalist.
Exactly. You used to have you used to have to know an editor at a local paper to get the same kind of reach that you would get now by hitting the button tweet, you
Yep,
know? And now there are no gatekeepers, and obviously that's created a lot of this disinformation problem,
exactly. I mean,
but it's empowered people like us and independent media to really get out there. So I agree with you on that they need to be talking to us, but I also think this is another, I guess, a good venue to like kind of think about this too. Like there's fandoms out there, right? Like there's TV show, there's like casual content, there's sports
mhm.
podcasts. That's where the majority of Americans are consuming their content. On your off time, a Democrat go on a sports podcast and just talk about sports. Like go and build
It's not
trust
that
with
hard,
people.
man. It's not
Yeah, go
rocket
and build
science.
trust with these people by talking like that. How do you build friendships with friends that are across the aisle? Like I grew up in Virginia. You have other interests that you agree with, right? So I think they need to be more human. Get out there and don't just like
And just be a regular person
just be
sometimes.
be a regular person, man.
Take your suit off.
Yeah.
Put a hoodie on and go just hang with some
I
folks.
took my suit off today for this. Like, I didn't come in here with a tie.
Well, this is my suit, man. I mean, this is ever since I left New York. I mean, this is me putting on a sport coat.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But
like, it's fresh too. You got the Jordan logo there.
well, I need to be Jordan. Y'all need to hook me up, man. At least
Yeah,
with some
yeah, you're
product, man.
representing. Yeah.
No, I tell you though, it's it's a time, man, that we're living in. But I just want to make one point, like you were saying about how people consume media. I don't even have. I used to, like live stream, through Hulu, and they got too expensive. Then I started using YouTube, excuse me, YouTube TV.
Yeah.
I just got serious. If I want to hear MSNBC or CNN, I just go to that thing, on my Alexa. I talked to my son today, who's in college. Hey, what are you doing? "Oh, I'm just watching something on YouTube."
Yeah.
Some gamer or something that he
That's
follows, right?
game streamers.
You remember? AOC was doing that,
They started Tim
going
Walls.
on Twitch and doing stuff like that. And
And
that's what
and
you got to do.
but you can't do it just within 100 days of the election after the
Oh,
other
yeah,
candidate
of
drops out.
course, of
Like
course.
what they need to be doing now these next 4 years, like yes, be on all these serious platforms talking about the constitutional crisis, but then maybe go appear on, if whatever your personal interest is, if you're a Star Wars fan, go on a star like like go on a go talk about a show. So like I know that might seem like off the wall for as a
It's
suggestion for
really
a lot of
not,
people,
though.
but I off my off time, like I'm a fan of all these different things. I got all these different fandoms. When you go, for example, Star Wars community, I'll talk about just quickly. They're they have this random, ridiculous, wild right wing tilt because the main influencer is some like, and you see all of this right wing sentiment is seeped into the non political culture, and there's not any voices out there going on these
There's
platforms
not a counter
to
narrative at all.
counteract it. So if these politicians, if like there's a mega Star Wars fan that's in the Democratic Party, go on the Star Wars Theory YouTube channel that's millions of people and just talk to them about Star Wars. Get people to like you. Like I know there's a lot more critical things to do, but they need to spend 4 years relating to the average American and building a real, authentic relationship rather than just sending donor emails and screaming about constitutional crises. You can fight that in the halls of Congress, but then relate to people. You got to find the new fireside chat.
Good point. We're closing in on an hour. I try to keep it, we don't want it to turn into a long documentary, but I think we hit on some good points. I guess maybe turn it over to you to just kind of close it out, and in terms of, the title of this, I named it was like, DOGE tariffs and what's next. What do you think's next?
What I think is next is just watching these courts. I think watching how the administration responds to some of these new court orders that are coming down, and making sure they're not defying it, and then seeing if these courts end up doing more remedies. For
Hmm.
example, like I think there's something with people don't really think about this that much, but uh, they're able to issue fines and also civil contempt that can't be
Hmm.
pardoned, and also direct court orders to U.S. marshals.
You
that
know
don't have to
something
be.
else that I thought about. I mean, and people kind of get it twisted. Maybe because of the Supreme Court, you can't do anything to Trump. But all these other people out here that are messing around, they don't have the immunity
Exactly,
that he's got.
exactly,
And if some of these folks have to start getting out here, getting some lawyers, Trump ain't gonna pay everybody's bills. You don't have his own.
exactly. Yeah,
So,
and what is what Trump just gonna have to sit there writing pardons all day for every single person that's getting hit with contempt? Like, I think you're right. It's watching these underlings. They don't
mhm,
have the immunity Trump has. They can be hit with civil judgments. They're the ones that are doing and implementing these unlawful actions without the immunity. And Musk can only
mhm,
pay for so many of their fines. Where if they put a contempt order and order jail, like that's not something that Trump could do. So my point is overall, there are more checks and balances than people realize. I think they want us to feel more. They want us to feel overwhelmed. They want us to feel that Trump has endless power. He's trying to attain that ultimate authority, but he does not have it yet. And we need to just basically stay within the reality that he is not as powerful as he seems or wants to appear. That's where my
mhm.
final word would be.
Yeah, I think those are all excellent points. I would say, and just kind of to close out, I mean, from my point of view, I look at the DOJ, and I think what happened today might have been a surprise in the sense that I don't think all these people who resigned today are like super conservative people.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Mm-hmm.
not liberals. But they check the politics at the door, and basically they had, I mean, especially Sassoon, she basically had her folks back.
Yeah.
The line attorneys that were trying the Eric Adams case, I mean, she was like, you know what, I'm not doing this. And
Yeah.
I don't think they don't expect people to have integrity, because they got a
Exactly.
whole party over here of folks that are pretty much laid down for them,
Because they
right?
don't have integrity themselves and they project their worldview onto
Mhm.
others. And they think those people are going to just fold. FBI as well, something worth watching. I think
Yeah.
Driscoll, the leader over there, they are digging in. So there are forms of resistance still ongoing. I don't think the Republic's going to fall because of this guy, Donald, personally. I do think we'll make it through, but I'm an eternal optimist. I guess we'll just have to
Yeah.
see.
There's going to be a lot of damage done, though.
There's going to be
I mean, it's
damage.
already, I mean, we don't know. I mean, I would like to think I'm too small for them to focus on, but if we keep doing this,
We keep talking too much.
we keep doing this, who
They're
knows?
gonna they're gonna try to threaten us, make us black conservatives.
Man, this has been great. We got to do
Yeah,
this again.
definitely.
Hopefully you won't get, if I reach out to you and your agent comes back,
You
oh
always have
no.
a direct line, man. We will
All
always be
right.
we'll always be cool, brother.
All right, man. That's wonderful. Look, I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna circulate the recording of this. It'll probably take me a day or two to, sort of get it together. But hopefully, this has been informative, and folks enjoyed it. I see looks like we got a nice crowd. So
Yeah,
that
people have been
that's
commenting throughout.
yeah, that's
They liking it.
encouraging.
Yeah,
But I would really like to do this again, and just try to keep people up on what's going on, and subscribe if you haven't already.
yeah,
If you can become a paid subscriber, so we can both keep doing this, and
yeah.
we'll see you next time.
Definitely, the paid subscriptions power this work for us, and if you can do that, that'd be great. If not, just engage and be free. We're here.
Yeah.
We will see you next time.
All
Appreciate
right.
you coming.
Okay. Take care, folks.
All right, brother.